Okay, in this video, we are going to discuss on the transport of water and mineral salts by means of these three actions, namely the transpirational pull, capillary action, and root pressure. And we know, again, the emphasis is that water is very essential to the growth of plants, and water with the best friend, and that is the dissolved mineral salts. They are moved along from the soil to the stems and leaves. And this movement is not easy because you can see that it is upwards, and that means against the gravity. Okay, other than that, we know water also gives turgidity to the plant cells, which means if plant cells are having enough water, the plant remains fresh. Okay, it is not wilting and it is fresh with enough amount of water in the vacuole of the plants. Okay, so have you ever thought of how water is being moved through the xylem to the plant stems, which can reach up to hundreds of meters high? Okay, it's going to be tough and challenged for water. So in this video, we're going to look at these three actions. So this is the plant, and look at the arrow over here. It says direction of the water movement, okay, which is against the gravity. And look at the red arrow over here. Okay, as you can see, so let's start with the roots. Okay, the roots to the stems and to the leaves. Okay, so let's begin with this transpirational pull. Okay, satu tarikan. So this pull is produced when water is evaporated from the stoma. Okay, so what happens is that it's going to pull the water which is from the leaves. So this is the structure, okay, showing the leaf. Okay, so you can identify that this is the upper epidermis. This closely packed green cells, they are the mesophiles, they are the palisade mesophiles. In the middle here, there is this vascular bundle. In this case, that's the xylem. All right, and then another group of mesophyll cells, that's the spongy mesophyll cells that are loosely arranged. Okay, and then there's this lower epidermis with the tiny pore or opening, and that's the stoma guarded by the gut cells. So you look at these dots over here, the small blue dots, those are the water molecules. So notice the water movement. So what this sentence says over here is that water is lost in the form of water vapor evaporated from the stoma. So imagine water exit like this. Okay, so there's empty space over here, and it's going to pull the water which is in the xylem to fill this empty space right here. Okay, and that is how this pull is being produced, this force. Okay, can you imagine that this is the pulling which is from top over here? Okay, so whenever this water vapor evaporated out to the surrounding, there's some empty spaces, and it's going to pull the subsequent water molecules here to fill the gap, and then subsequently, okay, it continues as the rate of transpiration increases. Okay, another picture. Can you imagine the transpirational pull dari atas, ya? Okay. Alright, so this the second action, capillary action, that is related to adhesion and also cohesion force. Okay, which these two forces are very important, which are going to ensure that the water will be moving upwards in the stem against the gravity. Remember, it all starts here from the roots, the bottom. So now how is it able to go up? Okay, without the water itself breaking. Okay, why is it able to go up? It's because of these two forces. Let's bring you back to, you see this one is figure 4.2, which is from your Form 4 textbook. Okay, when you learn about chemical composition in cell, about the water molecules, you see this is a molecule of water, oxygen with the 2 hydrogen. There's another water molecule over here. So these forces between the water molecule themselves, we call it as the cohesive force. Okay, there's another force over here which is between the water molecules and also the xylem wall. Okay, so that's why water doesn't break. Water is able to go up, okay, successfully driving up against the gravity, and that's the capillary action. Okay, last one is the root pressure, tekanan akar. So it's going to move the water which is from the soil over here, the soil water is going to enter into the xylem vessels of the root through osmosis. So you can see the longitudinal section right now. Okay, this is easily identified. That's the root hair, the modified epidermal cells. Okay, the xylem vessels is here. So water has to travel from the surrounding soil water and then into the root hair cells and then into the cortex, endodermis, pericycle, subsequently into the xylem vessels. You see the arrow? So this happens through osmosis. Okay, so recall what is osmosis? That's the net movement of water from area of high water potential to area of low water potential. So the surrounding here has got higher water potential as compared to the inside of the root. That results in the movement ataupun diffusion of the water molecules from the surrounding soil water into the root hair. Subsequently, dia akan naik ke atas until it exits the plant through the pores by means of transpiration. Okay, root pressure. Okay, imagining something pushing from here. That's pressure, tekanan. It's like the one here. Okay, pushing it in, up, and out. Okay, so how does water move from soil to the xylem vessels? Okay, so this is the root system. Remember that this multicellular plant has also got the cell organization. Starts with the basic unit of life, which is cell, tissue, organ, and system. And there we have the root system and also the shoot system. So zoom in, you get to see these are the root tissues lah, kan? The root cells, and then the modified epidermal tissues, that's the root hair cells. Okay, and then it is surrounded by the soil with the water, the soil water. Okay, so again, let's look at the key indicator. That's the red arrow over here. Okay, it's going in. It's going in from outside, this water movement. From the soil water into the root hair cell and then into this third thing over the green one with big vacuole. Okay, this area is the cortex. Okay, so now revision. What are the main cells that forms the cortex? Hints, they are the ground tissue. Okay, another hint is you can easily identify this ground tissue by looking at the big vacuoles for water storage. That's the parenchyma cells. Okay, so subsequently, next into this red region over here, that's the endodermis, and then we have the pericycle and the xylem, and that's the vascular region already, vascular tissue. Okay, the vascular cylinder. So into the xylem, okay, and then subsequently going up. So water is absorbed into the roots, into the xylem by the root system, which has these root hairs. Okay, so these are the explanations indicated by number 1 to 5 So number one here, it's very simple. You don't need to memorize the words, but you can spontaneously write down the description when you understand the concepts. So it says here the water potential in the root hair cells is lower as compared to the one in the soil. Inside here is lower. Okay, why? Because mineral ions are actively pumped. Remember the active transport? Okay, where the potassium ions are being transported into the root hair cells, into the vacuole, causing the cell sap of the root hair to have low water potential as compared to the soil. That's why lah. Okay. Then number two, what happened here is that water, because having compared the difference in the concentration of the solution in these two region compartment, next you have to identify to determine the movement of water. Okay, this one high potential of water, low potential of water. So determine, very simple, you say water from the soil diffuses into the root hair cells and epidermal cells through osmosis. Okay, it is by means of osmosis. That's what osmosis. Okay, number three, it says the high water potential in the root hair cells, okay, causes the water to diffuse from the root hair cells into the cortex. So that means from this yellow one, the root hair cells into the cortex, also by means of osmosis. High water potential, low water potential. Okay, number four, this condition causes osmosis to continuously, you see this one, the keyword continuously occur throughout this is the cortex, we have the endodermis, and also the pericycle layer, okay, which is encapsulating the vascular bundles. Okay, so all these is one direction because of the osmosis. Okay, number five, this causes the root pressure to push the water into the xylem vessels of the root, okay, and then into the xylem vessels of the stem. So this region here is still, we are describing here at the root system. So this is how is it in the root system. Okay, subsequently, what happened to the fate of water? It's going to move up. There's no other outlets. There's no going back. It's going to move forward, which is upwards. The next road that is in front is ke atas. So that's why like it says into the xylem vessels of the stem. And tadi is from the root. Okay, so this answers how does water move from the soil to the xylem vessels. Okay, so now this is the second action by means of capillary action, because you can already see this one, water movement in the xylem vessels of the stem. So here we are, which means we'll be looking at the capillary action. Okay, right here. So for tall plants, root pressure cannot transport water to the leaves, especially the shoots. Okay, so therefore the movement of water molecules in the xylem vessels is helped by capillary action. Okay, kalau the plants are very short, no problem moving from the roots to the stems to the leaves. But imagine if it is more than 100 meter tall, yang pokok-pokok besar, those woody plants, root pressure itself cannot sustain. So mesti ada pertolongan capillary action by means of adhesion and also cohesion forces. Okay, together with the transpirational pull, itu. So adhesion and cohesion forces produce pulling force, okay, which continuously moves water in the xylem vessels. Cohesion and adhesion forces. Okay, we're talking about this capillary action. Nah, dia akan secara terus-menerus is going to move the water up in the vessels. So again, don't terbalikkan ya. This one, adhesion force is between water molecules and also the wall of the xylem ataupun other surface. In this case, is the wall of the xylem. Cohesion force is between the water molecules. So it's moving upwards. So you get to see the xylem vessels with the perforated the pits right here, right? Okay, so next is that the third one is here. Kita sudah sampai kepada daun. So water movement in the xylem vessels of the leaves. So this is the xylem vessels, and we have the upper epidermis, the palisade mesophyll, the spongy mesophyll, these also the spongy mesophylls, and also the lower epidermis. Nah, ada satu bukaan di sini, and that's the stoma. Okay, yang biru-biru, these are the water molecules moving in the xylem vessels. So now they have come to the leaf, they have reached here. So what happened is that water vapor released to the surrounding by means of transpiration. Okay, dia akan dibebaskan ke sekeliling. So when transpiration process happens, okay, what happens is that water will diffuse out as water vapor. Okay, so this in the spaces between the cells to the surroundings through the open stoma. Apabila ini buka, transpiration happen, then water is lost to the surrounding in the form of water vapor, kan? In the form of water vapor. So these spongy mesophyll cells, yeah, they will lose water. Okay, kehilangan air, and hence apabila buka ini sel-sel dekat sini ni lose water, so hence it answers why osmosis boleh berlaku di dekat sini, because they're having low water potential to the adjacent cells, which means the surrounding cells. So what happened is that osmosis sekali lagi. So water molecules is going to diffuse from the neighboring cells through the spongy mesophyll cells by osmosis. Okay, and this movement is produces a force called the transpirational pull. Ada satu daya yang terhasil, ada satu tarikan dari luar. It's going to pull the water molecules in the xylem vessels of the leaves to the outside of the leaf. So imagine this, somebody pulling it out. From outside, dia akan menarik these water molecules to exit the leaves. Again, the picture to show you that there's pulling force from outside. Okay, so there's bioexploration here about the apoplast and also the symplast pathway. So this, yang ini adalah, you can see the root hairs. So this one is the root region lah. So water movements from the root cells in xylems, dia berlaku two ways. The symplast pathway, okay, which is the blue lines over here, and also the apoplast pathway. So for symplast pathway, water moves through the cytoplasm and also the plasmodesmata. So I'm going to show you, this is the one. You see the dark blue, the symplastic pathway through cytoplasm, melalui cytoplasm itu. Okay, what is plasmodesmata? Dia adalah plural bagi plasmodesma. Okay, plasmodesma, this is the interconnection of in the cells of the roots. Okay, ada dekat sini ya. Interconnected plant cells, protoplast. Protoplast tu bermaksud cytoplasms with the nucleus and also the other cell components lah. Okay, so that's symplast. That's symplast, you see. From the surrounding soil water into the root hair cells, epidermis, sekali lagi cortex di jalan, tempat yang sama, endodermis, and then into the xylem vessels. Okay, into the xylem vessels. Dia punya pergerakan itu begini. Okay, non-stop. The arrows, you can see the blue ones non-stop, and eventually it's going to reach the xylem vessels. But for apoplast pathway, water moves through the spaces between the cellulose fibers at the cell wall. So again, you can see here, apoplastic pathway itu adalah menerusi cell wall. So di sini, di antara cell wall. Okay, sebab itulah kita gunakan the term cellulose fibers. Okay, sebab cellulose fiber inilah the component that forms the cell wall. That's the one that makes the cell wall real tough and rigid, and that's why you don't see plant cells burst. Okay, whenever the Turgor pressure is very great. Okay, sedikit revision for you. So because the cell walls in the endodermis, for endodermis ini sangat special. The cell walls. Why? Because there's a layer over there, and the name of the layer is called, very beautiful name, the Casparian strip. Okay, Casparian strip ini, their characteristics is that it is not permeable to water because we know kalau cell wall itu it is permeable to water, isn't it? It's not like the plasma membrane itu semi-permeable, but cell wall all permeable. But for endodermis, having this Casparian strip, it's not permeable to water, and therefore water cannot move through the apoplast pathway, but it has to go through the symplast pathway over here. Okay, maksudnya dia memang akan melalui cytoplasm, dia akan melalui plasmodesmata, okay, seterusnya merentas all these parts over here sehinggalah dia sampai kepada xylem vessels. Okay, that's the water movement in the xylem vessels of the stem and the leaf. Okay, this one some keynotes here. Okay, apoplast pathway occur in the cortex, that's the cortex, until it reaches the endodermis. Kat sini tersekat, why? Because the cellulosic cell wall. Maksudnya the cell wall of the endodermis yang ada Casparian strip itu. Okay, ada lignin, ada suberized matrix. That's the one that makes it impermeable to water, prevents water movement. So dia akan stop dekat sini. Okay. So it has to go through the symplast pathway. Okay, symplast means a continuous network of interconnected plant cells, protoplast. Okay, so I will stop here. Okay, to be continued.